Imagine this. You've just stepped aboard a gleaming cruise ship. The ocean stretches endlessly. The air is filled with that mix of salt and excitement, and you're ready for a week of pure escape. But here's the catch. Cruising in 2025 isn't exactly the same as it was just a few years ago. Quietly, behind the scenes, cruise lines have been changing the rules, and not every change is something passengers are going to cheer about. In fact, some of them might catch you completely off guard if you're not prepared. That's why in today's guide, we're diving deep into 5 brand new policy changes that every cruiser needs to know before stepping on board. Some of these policies are about money, some are about fairness, and some are about the cruise lines protecting themselves, but all of them will affect the way you plan, spend, and enjoy your vacation. And here's the good news. I'm not just going to tell you what's changing. I'm going to show you how to adapt, how to turn these policies to your advantage, and how to make sure they never ruin your trip. Because the best cruisers, the ones who come home with great stories instead of frustrations, aren't just lucky. They're informed, and they're prepared. So let's set sail with the very first, and perhaps most controversial, policy shift of 2025. Policy 1. No-show fees for specialty dining. Once upon a time, making a reservation at a specialty restaurant on board was simple. If you didn't show up, the worst that happened was you missed your lobster tail or perfectly grilled filet. But today, cruise lines have started charging passengers for skipping out on those reservations. And this change is sending ripples through the cruising world. Let's break it down. Norwegian Cruise Line now charges a $10 no-show fee per person if you don't cancel your reservation at least 2 hours before your dining time. That might sound small, but here's the kicker. Royal Caribbean has taken it to another level. If you miss your seat at one of their premium venues, like the chef's table, you could be billed $50 per person. For other specialty restaurants, you'll owe 50% of the total cost. And unless you're in a suite or on a dining package, there are no exemptions. Now, why are cruise lines cracking down? Because too many passengers were playing the just-in-case game. They'd reserve multiple tables, show up late, or not show at all, leaving other guests locked out of prime dining times. For the cruise lines, that's wasted staff hours and frustrated customers. For you, it now means a potential bill for something you didn't even eat. So how do you outsmart this? Here are 3 tips seasoned cruisers are already using. First, set reminders. Add your dining reservation into your phone calendar and turn on an alert an hour before. It's the simplest way to avoid a surprise charge. Second, if your plans change, cancel as soon as possible. Most ships allow easy cancellations in the app or at guest services. And third, book realistically. Don't squeeze in a steakhouse dinner right after an all-day excursion. Leave yourself time to relax, freshen up, and actually enjoy the meal you paid for. Yes, it feels like another nickel and dime policy, but here's the truth. If you're a thoughtful planner, this change can actually work in your favor. Because the no-shows, there'll be fewer and fewer, which means the prime tables, the ones at 7 p.m. with the best view of the ocean, might finally open up for you. In other words, if you know the system, you win. Policy 2. The end of drink package loopholes. And as if dining wasn't complicated enough, another shift that's been ruffling feathers has to do with one of the most debated perks at sea, the drink package. For years, Royal Caribbean had what many cruisers considered a little-known backdoor. Officially, the rule was clear. If one adult in the cabin purchased an alcohol package, every other adult in the same cabin had to purchase it as well. But if you called customer service, explained that your spouse didn't drink for medical or personal reasons, sometimes they'd make an exception. One person could buy the full package, while the other got away with the cheaper non-alcoholic version. It was never written in bold letters, but regular cruisers knew the trick. That exception, however, is gone. Starting in late 2024, Royal Caribbean announced that they would no longer honor these special requests. Both passengers must now buy the alcohol package, period. No more loopholes, no more phone calls, no more quiet exceptions. Now, to be fair, you can probably guess why. Too many guests were bending the truth. Some were genuinely non-drinkers, yes, but others were simply trying to game the system, sharing cocktails, sneaking sips, and leaving the cruise line footing the bill. And while it's tempting to grumble that this is just another way cruise companies squeeze us, the reality is simple. When enough people abuse a loophole, the loophole closes. For the everyday cruiser, this change means we need to get sharper with our math. The glossy brochures might make the drink package sound like the ultimate vacation hack, but it only makes sense if you'll actually use it. On most ships, you'd need to drink 5 to 7 cocktails a day just to break even. And that doesn't even include the shore days when you'll be off the ship entirely. If you're someone who prefers a glass of wine at dinner and maybe a cocktail at sunset, the numbers just don't work in your favor. So what's the smart move now? Instead of automatically adding the package to your cart, step back and calculate. Think about your drinking habits. Consider the length of your cruise, and don't forget to factor in port days. Sometimes paying as you go ends up saving hundreds. Other times, onboard credits, loyalty perks, or even bringing your own 2 bottles of wine on embarkation day, a little-known allowance on many lines, can give you the flexibility without the hefty bill. Does this change feel restrictive? Absolutely. But here's the bigger truth. Once you free yourself from the idea that a package is a must-have, you start making decisions based on value, not pressure. And that shift alone can turn your vacation from a budget headache into a stress-free escape. Because at the end of the day, the drink package was never about unlimited cocktails. It was about convenience. And in 2025, convenience comes at a cost you need to weigh carefully. Policy 3. Crackdown on passenger-led gambling. Moving from the bar to the casino, another change that's caught many cruisers off guard is the crackdown on passenger-led gambling. Now, we all know that casinos have always been a centerpiece of cruising. Whether it's the flashing lights of the slot machines, the thrill of blackjack, or the suspense of bingo night, gambling on board is designed to be fun and profitable for the cruise line. But what some passengers may not realize is that all of it is strictly controlled and operated by the cruise company itself. Recently, Carnival made it crystal clear. Outside gambling, meaning games organized by passengers for real money, is no longer tolerated. At the heart of this issue is a game called Left, Right, Center. It's a simple dice game, but on many sailings, groups of passengers were playing it for cash. To them, it was harmless fun, a way to socialize, laugh, and pass the time. But to the cruise line, it was a red flag. Crew members have now been instructed to step in and shut down any passenger-led betting, no matter how small the stakes. Even a friendly game with just a few dollars in the pot is officially off limits. Now, it's easy to roll our eyes at this. After all, does a $10 dice game really threaten the ship's operations? But here's the reasoning. Unregulated gambling can spiral. Disagreements over money, arguments among strangers, and even the appearance of illegal activity all create problems that the crew is left to clean up. On top of that, when passengers gamble among themselves, they're bypassing the very casino that funds entertainment, prize pools, and part of the cruise line's revenue. In short, what feels like a casual game to you looks like a risk to them. So, how do you adapt without losing the fun? Many seasoned cruisers have gotten creative. Instead of cash, they play for novelty items: rubber ducks, candy bars, pretzels, even little souvenirs picked up in port. Others have turned games into non-monetary challenges, with the loser fetching drinks or telling a funny story. And of course, if you want the real gambling rush, the ship's casino is open late into the night, with games designed, monitored, and paid out under official rules. The bigger lesson here isn't just about dice or cards. It's about recognizing that while cruise ships are playgrounds, they're still tightly managed environments. The crew doesn't enjoy being the fun police, but they have to enforce the rules. By respecting those boundaries, you not only avoid awkward run-ins, but also help maintain the lighthearted atmosphere that makes cruising so special. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to gamble, it's to make memories. And there are plenty of ways to do that without a stack of dollar bills on the table. Policy 4. Automatic gratuity increases. Next, let's talk about a change that touches every single passenger on board. Automatic gratuities. For decades, tipping on a cruise was a bit of a gray area. Some guests liked slipping cash into an envelope at the end of the voyage, while others preferred the convenience of automatic charges. But in 2025, cruise lines are no longer shy about setting the rules themselves. Daily service charges, once hovering around $14 or $15 per person, have quietly climbed higher. On many ships today, you'll see rates of $18 to $20 per person per day. And if you're sailing in a suite, the figure can jump even more. Now, it's tempting to view this as just another sneaky way for cruise companies to pad their profits. After all, these charges appear on your bill whether you think the service was excellent or just average. But here's the reality. Those gratuities aren't pocket change for the crew, they are the crew's livelihood. Your cabin steward, your dining room team, even the behind-the-scenes staff you never meet depend on this system to make a living. Base salaries at sea remain low, and gratuities fill the gap that keeps thousands of hardworking crew members afloat. So what does this mean for passengers? First, it means you need to budget smarter. Don't treat gratuities as an afterthought or a surprise fee at the end of your cruise. Instead, build them into your vacation cost from day one, the same way you'd account for airfare or excursions. Second, it means that if you want to recognize exceptional service, small personal tips, an envelope with cash, a thank you card, or even a kind word can go a long way. Crew members often remember the guests who take the extra step to show appreciation. Of course, not everyone loves the idea of mandatory tipping. Some argue that it takes away the personal choice to reward good service. But in truth, automatic gratuities create consistency. They ensure that every member of the service team, not just the ones you interact with most, shares in the rewards of your experience. That means the laundry staff, the kitchen assistants, and the cleaners who keep public spaces spotless are also being thanked for their unseen contributions. Here's the bottom line. Gratuities aren't just another line item on your bill. They are the foundation of the hospitality you enjoy every day at sea. When you accept them as part of the cruise culture, you not only avoid the frustration of feeling nickel and dimed, you also travel with the peace of mind that you're supporting the people who make your vacation magical. And in return, you'll find that the service on board feels warmer, friendlier, and more personal, because appreciation has a way of coming full circle. Policy 5. Tighter Wi-Fi and data restrictions. Finally, let's talk about something that frustrates almost every cruiser these days: Wi-Fi. For years, passengers joked that cruise internet was slow enough to make you miss the days of dial-up. But in 2025, the issue isn't just speed, it's restrictions. Even as cruise lines roll out faster satellite systems like Starlink, they've quietly begun tightening how passengers can use that bandwidth. On many ships now, daily data limits are enforced, streaming services are blocked, and some lines even throttle connections after a certain amount of use. And if you were hoping to log into your work VPN or share a package across multiple devices, get ready to pay extra. So why all the clampdowns? The truth is, bandwidth at sea is still a limited resource. When thousands of passengers try to stream Netflix or upload vacation videos all at once, the system struggles. Cruise lines are under pressure to balance passenger demand with technical reality. Their solution is to ration by slowing connections, limiting devices, or charging premiums for the kind of access we take for granted on land. But here's the good news. Seasoned cruisers have learned how to outsmart these frustrations. Before you even leave home, download movies, audiobooks, playlists, and maps directly to your device. That way, you're not draining precious megabytes trying to stream or load content at sea. Once on board, use messaging apps like WhatsApp, iMessage, or even basic email to stay in touch, because these services sip data instead of guzzling it. And if you really need to video call family back home, schedule it for a port day, when cell service or cafe Wi-Fi is often faster and cheaper than the ship's network. Now, for some, these restrictions feel like a deal breaker. But here's another perspective. Maybe this is the push we all need to truly unplug. Think about it. The ocean doesn't care about TikTok. Sunsets don't need a filter. And some of the best moments on a cruise happen when you're fully present, not staring at a screen. Instead of fighting the Wi-Fi rules, use them as permission to slow down. Read that book you've been putting off. Have a real conversation at dinner. Watch the horizon and let your thoughts drift with the waves. Ironically, the very thing that feels like a frustration at first can become one of the greatest gifts of cruising: the chance to disconnect from the noise and reconnect with yourself and your loved ones. So yes, Wi-Fi rules are getting tighter, and yes, it can be inconvenient. But if you prepare wisely and adjust your mindset, You may just find that a little digital silence makes your cruise richer than ever before. So there you have it. 5 policy changes every cruiser in 2025 needs to know about. From the no-show dining fees, to the end of drink package loopholes, to Carnival's gambling crackdown, rising automatic gratuities, and those ever-tightening Wi-Fi rules, each one reshapes the way we experience life at sea. Some of these shifts feel like fair corrections. Others? Well, they may just feel like another hand in your pocket. But here's the truth. None of them have the power to ruin your cruise, unless you let them. Because smart cruising isn't about avoiding every policy. It's about knowing the rules, anticipating the changes, and adjusting your strategy. When you set reminders for dining, you save money. When you calculate drink packages honestly, you avoid regret. When you respect gambling rules, you keep the fun alive. When you budget gratuities from the start, you cruise without stress. And when you prepare for limited Wi-Fi, you unlock the chance to unplug and savor the magic of the ocean. These aren't just rules, they're opportunities to cruise smarter, with more awareness and less frustration. At the end of the day, cruising has never been about policies or fine print. It's about freedom. It's about waking up to new horizons, laughing with friends at dinner, dancing under the stars, and carrying home stories you'll tell for years. Policies will come and go, but the sea will always be there, wide, open, and waiting for you to step aboard with confidence. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these changes do you think is the hardest to swallow? And which ones do you think actually make sense? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective, and if this video gave you insights or made you feel a little more prepared for your next voyage, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more insider cruise wisdom every week. Because remember, your best cruise isn't about luck, it's about knowledge. And when you sail informed, you sail free. Your voyage is just beginning.